Soo-hee's cold had persisted for a week without showing any signs of improvement. Her editor called several times a day to urge her to finish her manuscript, but Soo-hee avoided answering the phone each time. The cold medicine made her drowsy, leaving her with no energy to write. Soo-hee was curled up under the blanket, sneezing and sniffling. Ding! A new message came in. She fumbled for her phone under the pillow and, still half asleep, glanced at the screen. Suddenly, she sat up in shock. Your card ending in 0596 has been charged 3,500 renminbi. Your card ending in 0596 has been charged 1,000 renminbi. After reading several similar messages, Soo-hee couldn't bear to look any further. Su Miao, it was Su Miao again. Gritting her teeth, Soo-hee angrily dialed Su Miao's number, but the phone rang and rang without being answered. Soo-hee opened her mobile banking app and stared at the balance, which had now dropped below 4 digits. Her heart sank. As if things couldn't get any worse, just as she was trying to calm herself, the editor, Xiaomi, called again. You can dodge it for a while, but not forever. Soo-hee took a deep breath and answered the call. Soo-hee, how's this month's manuscript coming along? Well, I'm working on it. Working on it? You said the same thing half a month ago. Soo-hee, you need to put in more effort. These days, young writers are not only talented, but also attractive. If you don't keep up, you might lose your spot as a small-time, barely known author. I know. Soo-hee suddenly felt deflated. After hanging up the phone, a deep sense of helplessness washed over her. For a moment, she felt like her life was a complete mess. An hour later, Soo-hee, bundled up in a thick down jacket, sat in the waiting area of the hospital, waiting for her number to be called. The girl across from her seemed to also have a cold. Her boyfriend was offering her tissues and water, and the sight made Soo-hee sigh. As an older single woman, with an unsuccessful career and an empty love life, Soo-hee wondered if her life could possibly get any worse. Number 138, Soo-hee, please go to consultation room 3. Soo-hee glanced at the screen, then pushed open the door to the consultation room. The doctor, wearing a mask, was focused on the computer screen and asked without looking up, "What are your symptoms?" "A cold and a cough." "How long has it been?" "About a week." The doctor suddenly paused and looked up at her. The moment their eyes met, Soo-hee was stunned. Those amber eyes were just like someone else's. "Unbutton your shirt." What are you going to do?" Soo-hee blurted out reflexively, but then saw the stethoscope in the doctor's hand and blushed instantly. The doctor hesitated for a moment, pretended not to hear her, and turned his head away. The cold stethoscope moved across Soo-hee's chest a few times, and as she looked down, she noticed his hands. His fingers were long and slender, with clearly defined joints. Even through her clothes, she could feel a faint warmth. For some reason, Soo-hee's heart suddenly began to race. The person across the desk put down the stethoscope, glanced at Soo-hee, and said in a deep voice, "You have bronchitis. Take the medication for a few days, and if it doesn't improve, come back to the hospital for an injection." Huh? Oh. Thank you, doctor. Soo-hee was a bit out of sorts. She felt flustered, a little chaotic inside. After all these years, it seemed she hadn't changed at all. Whenever anything reminded her of that person, she would become like this. Soo-hee smiled and shook her head. As she got up, she suddenly noticed the name on the doctor's badge, Jiujiu. It was like a spell. Her scalp tingled, her blood froze, and her hand trembled slightly as she held the medical record. Could it really be this much of a coincidence? Jiujiu, was it really him? Soo-hee instinctively used the medical record to cover her face, turned around slowly, then suddenly sped up and rushed out of the consultation room as if fleeing. Soo-hee followed the doctor's advice and took the medication for 3 days. Her runny nose had stopped, and the coughing had eased as well. But that rascal Su Miao seemed to be deliberately avoiding her. He wouldn't answer her calls or reply to her messages. She had planned to buckle down and focus on her writing, but all she could think about was the encounter with Jiujiu. Life is truly ironic. The man who had occupied her entire youth didn't even recognize her anymore. The Ji Anyun she remembered always had that cool and distant personality. Forgetting people must come easily to him. Since she was 16, she had spent so many years chasing after him, yet when they met again, they were nothing but strangers. If it hadn't been for that fire, she might still be hopelessly obsessed even now. In the end, it had always been her one-sided madness. At noon, there was a sudden power outage in her neighborhood. Soo-hee glanced at her computer, which had shut down abruptly, and felt like her luck had hit rock bottom. She knew that if she couldn't write anything soon, she might really be out of luck next month. After much thought, she decided to go to a quiet cafe to seek inspiration. Soo-hee lived in an old residential area. The building was a bit dated, but the location was excellent. Within 10 minutes of leaving the neighborhood, you could reach the central hospital, a shopping center, and several quaint cafes. She chose a quiet shop, picked a window seat, and ordered a pot of floral tea with unlimited refills, enough to keep her there until nightfall. Soo-hee opened her notebook, but every time she wrote a sentence, she deleted it, unable to form anything coherent. She suddenly felt a bit discouraged. It seemed like she couldn't function properly whenever Ji Anyun was involved. Even though he never liked her, even though he left without hesitation when she needed him the most, why did his mere presence throw her world into chaos again? As her thoughts drifted, she heard someone calling, "Anyun, over here." Soo-hee looked up and, startled by the sight at the door, quickly ducked her head, using her notebook to hide her face. After a few minutes, she sneaked a glance and saw Ji Anyun sitting diagonally across from her, next to a woman so beautiful she turned heads. Soo-hee frowned slightly. The woman said something to him, and he actually smiled. That smile. He must like that woman. Soo-hee suddenly felt a sharp pang in her heart. So his coldness wasn't for everyone. She hurriedly got up, wanting to escape, but as she reached the door, the owner called out, "Miss, you haven't paid yet." Soo-hee froze, feeling utterly embarrassed as she fumbled through her pockets. In her rush to leave, she seemed to have forgotten her wallet. I forgot to bring money. How about I leave my laptop here as collateral and come back later to pay?" The owner frowned, about to say something when someone handed her the money. "Put it all together." Soo-hee looked up at the sound of the voice, and when she saw Ji Anyun standing in front of her, she wished she could find a hole to crawl into. "Is your cough better?" Soo-hee clutched her laptop, turning to stone. So he did recognize her that day. Remembering how disheveled she had looked that day, Soo-hee felt even more awkward. "Anyun, who is this?" The woman from earlier approached, naturally linking her arm with Ji Anyun's. Soo-hee, a classmate. For words, simple and concise, this was the final label Ji Anyun had given her. Soo-hee smiled awkwardly, mumbled a few excuses, and fled. When Soo-hee got home, she was surprised to find Soo Miao there. "Hey, sis, you're back?" Soo-hee was furious at his nonchalant attitude. She rushed over in a few strides and twisted Soo Miao's ear. "Spill it. What did you spend all that money on?" "Ow, ow, ow. That hurts." Soo Miao broke free from her grip, rubbing his ear as he explained. "I was thinking your birthday is coming up, so I wanted to give you a surprise, but I didn't have enough money, so I borrowed a bit." "Not enough money, or no money at all? How old are you now, and you're still pulling stunts like this?" Seeing that his sister was really angry, Soo Miao quickly assured her, all right, consider it a loan. I'll pay you back once I get my scholarship next semester." Soo-hee sighed, wondering when her brother would ever grow up. She had lectured him countless times, but it always seemed to end up like this. Noticing that his sister's anger had somewhat subsided, Soo Miao said mysteriously, "Sis, guess who I ran into at the mall a couple of days ago?" Soo-hee gave him an impatient look. "A pretty girl? Your first love." "What are you talking about, sis? Your brother has such high standards. I wouldn't fall in love so easily." "But you're half right, it was your first love, Ji Anyun." Suhi covered her face with her hands and sighed. Was Mercury in retrograde or something? Why did she keep hearing that name wherever she went? I saw him shopping with a girl. I couldn't see clearly from a distance, but she seemed pretty. Suhi thought of the woman she had seen earlier at the cafe and sighed. Matters of the heart truly couldn't be forced. Seeing the look on his sister's face, Su Miao suddenly realized he might have said the wrong thing. He scratched his head and tried to comfort Suhi. Sis, even though that girl might be prettier than you, there's a saying, a dime a dozen beauties can't compare to a one-of-a-kind soul. Your inner qualities are 1 in a million. Suhi glared at him fiercely, too annoyed to respond. What kind of compliment was that? Did she look that bad? Seeing that things were going south, Su Miao quickly found an excuse to return to school. He understood now that any time the name Ji Anyun came up, his sister would always get upset. Suhi sat in the living room, her mind growing increasingly chaotic. Those years played out like a movie, scene by scene, flashing through her mind. She could never forget the joy she felt when she first saw Ji Anyun at school. The boy, dazzling in the sunlight, had reappeared in her life like something lost and found. It was the first time she felt the urge to hold onto something tightly. So she began chasing him without hesitation, around the school, along the path home. Wherever Ji Anyun might appear, you could always find the small figure trailing behind. His strides were too fast, and every time Suhi fell behind, she would call out to him, once, twice, 3 times until he stopped and turned to look at her. She loved being by his side, chattering away about all sorts of trivial things. Ji Anyun never responded, rarely speaking at all. It seemed their relationship always followed this pattern, one noisy, the other silent. Suhi remembered one time when she failed a math test. She walked home in silence. That day, Ji Anyun, surprisingly, slowed his pace to match hers. Are you upset? After a long silence, the boy beside her spoke softly. It was the first time Ji Anyun had initiated a conversation with her. The sudden joy overwhelmed her disappointment, and she foolishly pulled out the test paper hidden in her pocket to show him. He glanced at the paper and shook his head. Suhi, you really are dumb. You remembered my name. Suhi completely ignored the real meaning of his words, jumping up in excitement. The boy beside her stood still, quietly watching the girl who was cheering in the sunlight, a slight smile playing on his lips. It was that small response that kept her going again and again. But in the end, she was never the right person for him. She eventually came to understand that love isn't something that can be forced. Suhi stayed up for 2 consecutive nights, sending the manuscript to Xiaomi. Just as she lay down, her phone rang again. Baby, did you miss me? What are you up to now? I'm trying to sleep. Don't bother me if it's not important. Don't be like that. I'm back. Want to pick me up at the airport?
No.
How about dinner together then? I'll think about it. Don't be so smug. I'll call you when I'm close. Suhi hung up the phone and got up to freshen up. Nian Jiujiu was her university classmate, now a well-known lyricist in the industry. The two of them had been single and heartbroken, bickering all the way until they became close friends, sharing their ups and downs. But it never developed into anything romantic. Nian Jiujiu had made it clear that he wasn't attracted to Suhi's petite figure, and Suhi scoffed at his habit of falling for someone new every time he met a pretty face. In short, despite their differing views on love, they were kindred spirits. That evening, they were meeting for dinner at Yujin Xian, a Cantonese restaurant known for its light flavors. Nian Jiujiu ordered a table full of dishes and made sure he finished a large bowl of seafood porridge. After dinner, want to catch a movie?
No.
It's a new Makoto Shinkai film. You sure you don't want to go? I'll watch it at home when it's online. Su Miao said you have a psychological scar. Seems like he was right. Suhi suddenly put down her chopsticks and looked at Nian Jiujiu. Seriously, how did I get out of the fire back then? Nian Jiujiu frowned at her. Why are you bringing that up now? It was so long ago. How would I know? I saw you at the hospital with Su Miao. The firefighters must have rescued you. But now that you mention it, you're pretty lucky. That fire was huge, and you only had mild poisoning. Nothing else.
What do you mean by that?
You think I should have been burned beyond recognition or spent a year recovering in the hospital? Nian Jiujiu cleared his throat and grinned. No, I just think you're blessed by Buddha, not an ordinary person. Suhi shot him a glare, put down her chopsticks, and answered her phone. Nian Jiujiu didn't even get a bite of fish before He urgently shouted, "Quick, we need to get to Central Hospital. Su Miao's been in an accident." By the time Suhi arrived at the hospital, Su Miao was lying in the emergency room with an oxygen tube, his face pale and eyes closed. She hurriedly grabbed the nearest nurse, stammering as she pointed to Su Miao. That patient over there, I'm his family. How is he? The nurse glanced in the direction Suhi was pointing. There was a multi-car accident and many patients were brought in. It's complicated. You'll need to ask the doctor for specifics. Suddenly, Suhi felt cold all over, her body trembling uncontrollably. She was reminded of that night years ago when she waited outside the emergency room and heard the news of her grandfather's death. Dr. Ji, the patient's family is here. Suhi heard the nurse's voice and turned around in a panic, only to meet a pair of amber eyes. Ji Anyun glanced at the report in his hand and said in a deep voice, "The patient is currently unconscious. He has fractures in his nasal bone, ribs, and left leg. The ECG and X-rays are normal, and his vital signs are stable." Suhi stood there, stunned, unsure of what to do. Ji Anyun looked up at her and sighed. "It's not too serious. The leg fracture will need surgery. Given his condition, you should handle the hospital admission procedures while we schedule the surgery." Suhi finally felt a weight lifted off her shoulders. Just as she was about to thank him, Ji Anyun had already turned to attend to another patient. When Nian Jiujiu rushed in from the parking lot, Suhi was standing by the hospital bed. The room was bustling with people, and the sight of her small, slender figure made his heart ache inexplicably. He walked over, wrapped an arm around Suhi's shoulder, and gave her a gentle pat. Ji Anyun gave a few instructions to the nurse, then glanced instinctively towards Suhi. His gaze darkened suddenly before he turned and left the room. The hospital admission was quickly completed, but the orthopedics department was overflowing with patients, with even the hallways filled with beds. In the middle of the night, Nian Jiujiu made a series of phone calls, but all the responses were the same. Someone would be contacted in the morning. Su Miao was put on in 4-drip, but there were still no signs of him waking up. Suhi wanted to find a doctor to ask about Su Miao's condition, but just as she reached the door, the office door suddenly opened from the inside. Ji Anyun walked out, completely ignoring her as he passed by and left. Suhi watched his retreating figure, her heart filled with emotions she couldn't even begin to understand. He was the person she knew, but he also acted like a stranger. She could never figure out what was going on in this man's mind. Maybe it was good luck, but the next morning, Su Miao was transferred to a room. After a night of chaos, Su Miao's fever had subsided, and he was awake. Other than the pain from his fractures, there didn't seem to be any major issues. At that moment, Su Miao, grateful to be alive, was vividly recounting the thrilling details of the accident to Nian Jiujiu. Suhi shook her head helplessly and left to fetch some hot water. "I heard that the patient who was just admitted last night has already been transferred to a room this morning. Your family member's been here almost a week, right? Why hasn't anything happened yet?" We don't have any connections. What can we do?" The two people suddenly noticed someone standing behind them, exchanged glances, and quickly left with their water containers. Suhi recalled seeing Ji Anyun in the doctor's office yesterday. He wasn't an orthopedist, so why was he here? Could it be because of her? Lost in thought, Suhi didn't realize that the water had already reached the brim. The tap was turned on full blast, and water splashed everywhere before she could react, drenching her in hot water. In her panic, a hand reached over from the side, calmly turning off the tap. Crisis averted, Suhi let out a sigh of relief. Just as she was about to say thank you, she turned around and froze. Why are you here?" It's amazing she even made it this far, with things like this happening while fetching water. This is a hospital. I'm a doctor. Why do you think I'm here? Ji Anyun flicked a few drops of water off his clothes and walked out of the boiling water room. Soo-hee watched his retreating figure, momentarily speechless. Somehow, the silent and reserved Ji Anyun seemed more endearing. She walked out of the boiling water room with a thermos in hand and immediately saw Nian Jiujiu standing outside. Why are you out here? Is Su Miao alone in the room? He's asleep. I noticed you were taking a long time to get water, so I came to check on you. Oh, nothing's wrong. By the way, you stayed up so late last night. You should go home and rest early today. No need to keep coming to the hospital. Is it him? Nian Jiujiu's sudden question made Soo-hee's expression freeze instantly. After a moment, she forced a smile and nodded. Oh, he's not that impressive. I still think I'm better looking. Soo-hee couldn't help but laugh at his tone and responded, Yes, you're the most handsome in the world. Nian Jiujiu suddenly leaned down, looking at Soo-hee, and said softly, Has anyone ever told you not to smile at men like that so easily? Soo-hee's face instantly turned red. She tried to step back, but Nian Jiujiu wrapped his arm around her waist and pulled her into an embrace. Just as she was about to struggle, Nian Jiujiu whispered in her ear, Don't move. Just play along. Instinctively, Soo-hee glanced back and caught a glimpse of a white figure flashing by. Almost at the same time, Nian Jiujiu released her, teasing with a smile, I just sacrificed myself to help you. You? No need to thank me. Just treat me to dinner later. Soo-hee suddenly felt overwhelmed. Wasn't her life already complicated enough? Su Miao's surgery went smoothly. Being young, he recovered quickly as well. After a few days of observation without any issues, the doctor arranged for his discharge. On the day of discharge, Soo-hee made a special trip to find Dr. Sunday. Over the past few days, Su Miao had caused quite a bit of trouble. Unexpectedly, as soon as Soo-hee began to express her thanks, Dr. Sun waved her off. And Yen and I were classmates in medical school in the United States. This was just a small favor. To be honest, I've known him for so many years, and this is the first time I've seen him take such an interest in someone else's matters. Oh, Ji and Yen and I have been classmates for many years. As soon as she said it, Soo-hee realized how it sounded like she was trying to cover something up. Is that so? I've known him for years, but last time when I went to him for treatment, he told me not to bother him. Soo-hee gave an awkward smile. If she had known Dr. Sun had this kind of personality, she wouldn't have come to trouble him. Dr. Sun, I'll let you get back to work. I should go check on Su Miao. Before Dr. Sun could respond, Soo-hee had already dashed out of the office. Dr. Sun's words left her feeling unsettled. Back then, almost everyone at school knew that the girl named Soo-hee had a crush on the cold and distant Ji and Yen. But she had never dared to confess to him directly. She was afraid Ji and Yen would reject her, and even more afraid of his indifferent reaction. From beginning to end, it was always her forcing herself into his world. Maybe Ji and Yen didn't even remember that the first time she saw him wasn't at school. She and Su Miao were half-siblings, and as the tag-along, she had lived with her grandfather since childhood. To her, wherever her grandfather was, that was home. When she was 16, her grandfather passed away unexpectedly. On that night of torrential rain, she couldn't accept the reality of his death. She ran out into the rain, chasing after the hearse carrying her grandfather, crying hysterically. Rain pelted her face and body, soaking her clothes. She shivered uncontrollably, but remained rooted to the spot. With her grandfather gone, she suddenly didn't know where to go. At some point, the rain stopped suddenly. She looked up to see an umbrella held over her head, and under the umbrella, a pair of amber eyes. The boy didn't say a word, just stood quietly beside her, holding the umbrella. Time passed by, and the rain grew heavier, but he continued to stand there silently, showing no sign of leaving. It wasn't until much later that someone seemed to call him from behind. Only then did he slowly turn around, hand her the umbrella, and walk off into the rain. That was the first time Soo-hee met Ji and Yen, quiet and reserved, but giving her a warmth she would never forget. Later, at school, she saw that boy again. She asked around until she finally learned his name was Ji and Yen. It was then that Soo-hee decided she would find a way into his world. She was just that kind of person, willing to chase after that small bit of warmth, even if it meant rushing headlong into it like a moth to a flame. As soon as Su Miao's leg had mostly healed, he couldn't wait to go out. Soo-hee couldn't control him, so she just let him be. In the afternoon, for some unknown reason, Su Miao called Soo-hee, insisting on treating her to a meal, saying it was to thank her for taking such good care of him during this time. There was traffic on the way, so Soo-hee arrived a bit late. The moment she pushed open the door to the private room, her mind buzzed as if it was hit by a shockwave. Besides Su Miao, there were two other people in the room, Nian Jiujiu and Ji and Yen. She stood at the door, unsure whether to enter or retreat. "Big sis, we've been waiting for you. Why are you so late?" Soo-hee shot him a sharp look, gave an awkward smile, and braced herself to walk in. Su Miao didn't seem to be affected at all by his sister's glare. He stood up with his wine glass and expressed his thanks. "This time, I owe it to my big sister and brother Nan. Of course, I'm also very grateful to Mr. Ji for lending a hand in my time of need. This toast is a small token of my appreciation." With just a few words, the distinction between closeness and distance was clear, and even Soo-hee could hear the underlying meaning. All evening, Nian Jiujiu and Su Miao seemed to be in perfect harmony, like a well-rehearsed act. Soo-hee had no idea what these two were up to. She stole a glance at Ji and Yen across from her. He seemed completely oblivious to their conversation, focused solely on his meal. Soo-hee found it amusing. She had been worried that Ji and Yen might feel uncomfortable hearing their banter, but it turned out he didn't care at all. She could never find her way into his world. Su Miao, perhaps because he had drunk too much, suddenly slapped Nian Jiujiu on the shoulder and said, "Brother Nan, I've relied on you for years. I'm relieved to leave my sister in your hands." Soo-hee almost spit out her orange juice. She looked up in shock, only to see Ji and Yen pick up his glass and down its contents in one gulp. Given the circumstances, Soo-hee couldn't cause a scene, so she awkwardly endured the evening until the end. Su Miao and Nian Jiujiu were both completely drunk by the time they left the elevator. Nian Jiujiu's manager, Shali, was already waiting downstairs. Despite Soo-hee's best efforts to persuade them, she couldn't separate Su Miao from Nian Jiujiu, so the manager had no choice but to bundle them both into the car. "Miss Su, I'll take her home. You all be careful on the way." Ji and Yen waved at Shali, who looked at the two of them and smiled knowingly. The black Mercedes quickly disappeared into the night, leaving Soo-hee with a blank mind. "Let's go." "Okay." Ji and Yen's car was parked in the plaza across the street. The roadside was littered with fallen leaves that crunched underfoot. Ji and Yen walked slowly, so Soo-hee no longer had to jog to keep up with him as she used to. "You were doing well abroad. Why did you suddenly come back?" "It wasn't sudden. I'd been thinking about it for a long time." "Oh, I see. Was it for your girlfriend? I saw her at the cafe the other day. She's very pretty." Ji and Yen paused for a moment and looked at Soo-hee. "Your boyfriend's not bad either. It's obvious Su Miao really likes him." They both fell silent, and the atmosphere grew oddly tense. After a long while, Ji and Yen suddenly asked, "Do you remember calling me once?" "How could I? You were abroad and I didn't have your number." Soo-hee shook her head, looking puzzled. "Then maybe I'm mistaken." Ji and Yen looked at the shadow on the ground and smiled. A year ago, when he heard the tearful, drunken sobs on the other end of the phone, he had dropped everything and returned. But what was the point of coming back? Soo-hee, back then, what's past is past. Why bring it up? Soo-hee forced a calm smile. She didn't want to hear the words, "I'm sorry," and even less did she want to falsely reassure him with, "It's okay." Ji and Yen hesitated, wanting to say something, but ultimately remained silent. That short path seemed to stretch on forever, with only the sound of leaves crunching underfoot breaking the silence. Some people are destined to miss each other, just like her and Ji and Yen. For years ago, she had waited all night at the cinema, only to be met with the nightmare of a raging fire. After surviving that disaster, she seemed to understand that some things couldn't be forced. It was as if all her courage had been consumed in that fire. Now, she was afraid of getting hurt, careful about gains and losses. She no longer wanted, nor could she bear, another one-sided pursuit. Soohee didn't know if this could be considered a stroke of luck after a bout of misfortune. Her novel, which had been serialized online, was receiving a lot of attention. Early in the morning, Xiaomi called her to say that a publishing house had reached out, wanting to discuss the possibility of publishing the novel. The meeting was set at the publishing house, and even as Soohee sat in the conference room, it all felt like a dream. Mr. Wu, the head of book publishing, and a few editors were in charge of the negotiations. It was Soohee's first time experiencing something like this, and despite Xiaomi's repeated pep talks before the meeting, she couldn't help feeling a bit anxious as she sat there. Miss Su, we've read your online serialized novel Ching Ching Love Song, and we really like it. It's currently very popular online, and we want to strike while the iron is hot and discuss the book's publication. We're really grateful, Mr. Wu. Although Soohee is a newcomer, she's always worked very hard. We're fortunate that everyone recognized her talent, and we hope to work together to make this book a success. Soohee breathed a sigh of relief, secretly thankful that Xiaomi was there. It's like this. The novel's plot and character development are quite good. Overall, it meets our standards for book publication. There's just one thing. Considering mainstream opinions online and the book's future sales potential, we hope Ms. Su can adjust the ending between the male and female protagonists. That's not a problem. I'll discuss specific revisions with Soohee when we get back. I won't change the ending. As soon as Soohee spoke, everyone present was a bit surprised. No matter how much Xiaomi signaled to her, Soohee ignored it. The people across the table looked troubled. Mr. Wu suddenly stood up and made a phone call. When he returned, he said to Soohee, Ms. Su, our director Ji would like to discuss this with you personally. Soohee nodded in agreement. This story was her tribute to the past, a reminder of the love and pain she had experienced. She had thought of many reasons, but none could justify altering it. How could a one-sided love ever reach a happy ending? On the 7th floor, Director Ji's office. Soohee knocked and entered. The person behind the desk looked up, and the moment their eyes met, a hint of surprise flashed in Soohee's eyes. It's you? The woman stood up, walked around the desk, approached Soohee, and extended her hand. Let's get to know each other again. I'm Ji Anren, and Yan's older sister. Soohee shook Ji Anren's hand, her mind going blank. She's Ji and Yan's sister? Miss Su, I'll be straightforward. I asked you here to discuss a personal matter. A personal matter? Ji Anren gestured for her to sit down, then took a booklet out of her desk drawer and handed it to Soohee. Soohee opened it with some hesitation, flipping through the pages. She could hardly believe it. The entire album was filled with sketches of her. Whether she was happy, frustrated, or in a daze, each moment was captured in detail. Miss Su, the first time I saw you wasn't actually at the cafe, it was in my brother's sketchbook. He's never told anyone about his feelings for you, but I knew. I read your novel, and I know it's about you and in Yen. Soohee looked up in shock. How is that possible? He never even... Ji Anren sighed. There's something you might not know. And Yen has had autism since he was a child. Although his treatment was timely, he still couldn't interact with others like a normal child. Until one day, he began asking to see a doctor, actively cooperating with treatment. We thought it was a miracle, but later I realized it was because of you. A memory of that quiet, silent boy flashed through Soohee's mind, how he had waited for her to walk home together for the first time. How he had smiled at her for the first time, and how he had accidentally called her name for the first time. So the cold and distant Ji and Yen, the one who had brought warmth to her life, was actually the one who needed warmth the most. but when I needed him the most, he left without even saying goodbye. Soo-hee forced a bitter smile, her eyes shimmering with tears. Ji Anren hesitated for a moment, then continued. If you're talking about 4 years ago when he went to the US, I think you might have misunderstood him. 4 years ago, he had an argument with our mother because he didn't want to go abroad. He seemed fine when he left, but then we got a call saying he had been severely burned in a fire and was in critical condition at the hospital. After his condition stabilized, my mother took him to the US for further treatment, so he wasn't able to contact you. During those years in the US, he lived like a robot, focused only on his studies. But last year, he suddenly rejected an offer to stay at the medical school in the US and chose to return to China. I don't know what happened, but I believe it had something to do with you. Soo-hee stood frozen in place. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. Silent tears rolled down her cheeks. So that dream she could never wake up from was real. The person who saved her from the fire, the one who shielded her from the flames, was truly him. Soo-hee, what have you done? Soo-hee, as his sister, you can understand how I feel. I want Nian to be happy, and I hope neither of you will have any regrets. Soo-hee looked at Ji Anren, then nodded. No, I won't let him leave again. Ji Anren opened the door and was surprised to see the person standing outside. What are you doing here? Ignoring his expression, Soo-hee pushed past him into the room and casually replied, I went to the hospital to find you, and Dr. Sun gave me your address. I'm here to tell you that I'm getting married. Ji Anren froze, standing with his back to Soo-hee. After a long pause, he quietly said, Congratulations to you both. 4 years ago, what was your answer? Ji Anren let out a cold laugh, turned to look at Soo-hee and said, Does it even matter now? Suddenly, Soo-hee rushed forward, stood on her tiptoes, and unexpectedly kissed him. Ji Anren was momentarily stunned. He quickly pushed Soo-hee away and asked sharply, Do you even know what you're doing? Soo-hee smiled but didn't answer. She stood on her tiptoes again, leaning in for another kiss. The next moment, she felt a tight grip around her waist. The familiar yet distant scent enveloped her as his lips softly claimed hers, the kiss deepening with a tender intensity. Her hands moved to his shoulders, slowly unbuttoning his shirt, revealing his firm chest. Her fingers traced his skin, trembling slightly as they moved across his back. A flash of panic crossed Ji Anren's eyes. He paused, grabbing the hand that was caressing his back, and whispered softly, Soo-hee. Soo-hee's eyes were red as she stared at him. Ji Anren, how could you be so foolish? Why didn't you tell me something this important? Why did you let me blame you, resent you? Don't you know that if I missed out on you, I'd never be happy in this life? Ji Anren released Soo-hee and gently wiped away her tears. If I knew it would make you this sad, I would rather you never find out anything. I just want you to be happy, even if that person isn't me. I went back to the school to find you later. I saw you with Nian Jiujiu. You were smiling so happily. I thought maybe he was the right person for you. But without you, how could I possibly be happy? Ji Anren, let's be together. Huh? Didn't you just say? I was joking. Soo-hee finally heard the words she had longed for, a sly grin spreading across her face as her plan succeeded. Realizing he had been tricked, Ji Anren's expression darkened. Suddenly, he scooped Soo-hee up in his arms and headed straight for the bedroom. Ji Anren, what are you doing? Put me down. Didn't your teachers ever tell you to finish what you start? Panicking, Soo-hee stammered. I was wrong, okay? You let me misunderstand for so long. I was just joking. How can you be so petty? Ji Anren set her down, a faint smile tugging at his lips. How am I being petty? I'm just proving how much I care. Soo-hee blushed furiously. Why you stop talking? The next second, Ji Anren suddenly wrapped his long arm around her, pulling her close. He whispered softly, Do you know how scared I was just now? Soo-hee, thank you for never leaving my world. Soo-hee's nose tingled, and tears began to fall again. It was the most beautiful confession she had ever heard.